Good evening. And if you're just tuning in, you're listening to 105.3 and 107.7. 105.3. Hang on, guys. I'm trying to share this live right now. Give me 1 second. Okay, there we go. Now that's out of the way. Um, Wait, I don't think it's shared. Darn it. There we go. Anyways, you are listening to 105.3, like I said, out of Mississippi, and 107.7 out of FM, out of the beautiful city of New Orleans, Louisiana, to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And this is the Angel Rock. I'm your host, Laura Lee Potvin. I am also the host of a second show here on the network on Thursdays. I co-host it with a very good friend of mine, an Angel Channel, amazing medium, David Hansel. It's called The Thing at the Foot of the Bed from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we're at the Angel Rock tonight. A few things to let you guys know about. Let me grab my pinned comment. I always forget something. You know I do if you've been here before. So first of all, if you guys like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends and family. There's something for everybody here on this network. We stream multiple shows daily, 7 days a week. When we're not streaming live, the archive server reaches back to over 25 plus years of podcasts. That's how long this network's been around, and randomly streams different shows. And we're always getting new hosts and new shows. So be sure to check that out. And everybody will find something that they love and enjoy here, I am sure. Now, if you want to watch us on TV, we have our own TV channel. We are on Roku. So where you go is to the channel store. You're going to type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's a drop-down list. We're about the third or fourth one down, and you're looking for UFO space Paranormal and United Public Radio, and that's how you can watch us. I guess I should tell you a little bit about myself too. I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher, and mentor. I'm also a nurse, retired. I guess that's the word I got to use because I'm not actively working. Also, I'm a budding animal communicator. I am well versed in near-death experiences, having studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years, and having had one as a toddler myself. And very well versed in the paranormal. And I always say I wasn't looking for the paranormal, it found us. But we have shared our story on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivor Season 4, Episode 9. Welcome, Diane. I see you. I think I remembered everything. You usually forget something. Oh, I know what I want to say. If you guys want to join in the comments, we've got Diane Brighton, like I said here. What you can do, because 80% of our listening audience globally, we broadcast to every country in the world, is audio only, but we love to have you join in the conversation. So what you can do, there's a few places you can head. You can go over to UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio on YouTube and Facebook. I'm streaming to my YouTube channel, which is the Angel Rock with Laura Lee Potvin. My guest can tell you where she's streaming. She's so tech smart, she figured it out. She's streaming to her live audience tonight too. Also, we are on Canada's Most Haunted. I am also streaming to my Instagram profile. It's under the Angel Rock, but I want to let you know if you're over there, I'm not purposely ignoring you, because if you've been to both of my shows, you know they're very audience participative. I always say without all of you, there'd just be me and my amazing guest having a great conversation, which we can, but we love the parts that you guys add to it. So we want you to feel included. But your comments don't show up on the main comment board here. So I'll try and flip back and forth during the show, or you can head to some of those other platforms I mentioned earlier. So last thing I want to remember to tell you guys, come hang out with us here in Thunder Bay in Northwestern Ontario, Canada. That's where I live. I didn't put this together, but October 4th to 6th, 2024 for the Lake Superior Paranormal Convention. Tickets are available now. There's VIP Plus, there's Supernatural and VIP Pass tickets, but they're limited. And from the last update I heard, they were over half sold out. So you want to get on that. There's going to be talks, workshops, paranormal investigation, and vendors. Some of them. There's probably going to be a few more added, but some of the guest speakers are Shane Pittman, Jeff Belanger, our own Carrie Lynn Shellhorn from UPRN. You guys know her, and if you don't, you need to check her show out on Fridays from 6 to 8 p.m. It's Spirit Switchboard. She is an incredible medium, psychic, is extremely intuitive, and a paranormal investigator, and she's absolutely a doll. She has great guests too. She's going to be coming up. I finally get to meet her in person. And she's going to be doing a special event called Spirits and Sweets on the Sunday. So she's going to be giving messages from Spirit if you're there, and you get to enjoy some delicious desserts at the same time. The Travel Channels Beyond the Haunting will be there. Chris, I always say his name wrong. Forgive me, Chris, if you ever hear this. Chris Rutkowski. He's going to be talking about UFOs and Bigfoot. We've got Dee McCauley, who is local here from Dark History, the Winnipeg Paranormal Group, and myself. I will be giving a talk, and I also will have a table. I have been making all kinds of spiritual and Halloween stuff since it's just before the big spooky holiday, so I hope to meet you all in person there. This is being put on by Lucky Paranormal. They're away on a trip right now. I'm hoping, I did talk to them when they were on the show. Hopefully they'll be able to stream this online, because if they can, those of you from around the world will be able to join us, but I will keep you updated on that. For more information, head to LakeSuperiorParacon.com. Who have we got here? We got Diane, like I said, Kathy Hanley Little. We've got Julie Jean Bassett. Hang on, though. I do want to get to this wonderful bio of our returning guest. Some of you don't know her. You guys are new to me here, and you're going to love her. She is amazing, and she's been on the show a few times. Her name is Sonia Roy. She's an extremely gifted bilingual Canadian medium, master holistic healer, including she's a master Reiki healer, a shamanic practitioner, as well as an author of numerous incredible books. And she was so kind to send me some of her incredible books, which I've been enjoying slowly. I don't get enough time to read. Sonia was previously an RCMP officer. For those of you from around the world that don't know what that is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And she uses her life experiences and knowledge, as well as exceptional abilities, to help guide and teach others, to help people to empower themselves and recognize their divine self. Welcome, Sonia. I'm so glad to have you back.
Hi, that's quite the lengthy introduction.
I knew it was going to be lengthy. I knew, but there's all these housekeeping things, right? And it's changed since you were on last.
Yes, so. It has. It has. So it's good to be updated, because when things change.
Well, I don't have a script, so as you see me fumbling there, I'm thinking, okay, what did I forget? What did I forget? So it's all from memory. So that's why. So how are you?
Very good. Thank you very much. The year is just like steam training through. And I'm like, okay, I know there's 365 days this year, but it feels like, I don't know, they're spent, the time is just flying. And I'm really,
it's May.
What do you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's May. And I'm coming to Quebec for 2 weeks in May. So I was like, wow, okay, I had all these other things I have to finish before this trip. And I'm like struggling to get everything done on time. So but it's not health wise. I can't complain. It's business wise, right? We moved from Quebec to Alberta, and we're in Drumheller, and now the word's getting around, so people are finding us. So now,
do you want to tell them, before we get into what we're going to chat about tonight? Do you want to tell them a little about this amazing? Is it a retreat space? Like I don't want to give it the wrong name, but it's an incredible space the way you've described it to me.
So it's called the REDU Spiritual Wellness Center. And we put the spiritual in now, because a lot of people were asking, do you do massage? And I'm like, I'm not a spa center. It's really spiritual what we do. And we've been looking for a location where we would have enough bedrooms to be able to host retreats. So we've been running the REDU Wellness Center now for, 12 years. Right. So we have a location in Vancouver. We have one in Quebec, but the locations were too small for retreats. So either we could only host 1 or 2 people at a time, or we had to send everybody to a hotel, pick them up every day. And, and we wanted to avoid that. So in Drumheller, we're located on the Red Deer River. So my property is 3 acres. We have 10 beds that people can come and stay with us. And we have fire ceremonies, water ceremonies, because we got the river right there. We got the fire right there. And so people can come just for weekend classes if they wish. We also, our new program is called the Wisdom School of Spiritual Transformation.
Okay.
And that branches, our mascot is a octopus.
And you should tell people too that you're in Alberta, because people, you've got to remember, we've got people from all over the world. They're going to go, where's Drumheller?
Alberta, Canada, the cowboy place of Canada.
Yeah.
And with that, we build a program so people understand how do you do medium and Reiki and other things? How do that all works connect? What's the connection, right? So we're able to do that through this program. And we have 4 retreats a year. So we just had one in April. We have one coming up in June, and it's a shamanic retreat. We have one in July. It's on the 12 level of consciousness, and we have one in August on the 5th dimension. So when you come to these retreats, you learn how to interact, either heal your consciousness that's been hurt, or the shamanic retreat is you learn how to build your tools, how to conduct ceremony and all that stuff. And the 5th dimensional one is where we connect to the 5th dimension. How do you connect? What does it look like? And why should we do that? And they spend 7 days interacting with this 5th dimension and, navigating the 3rd and the 5th and realizing that it's a lot easier to be in the 5th, but we still have to stay here in the 3rd. So how to navigate all that.
That is so cool. Oh my gosh. Like I say, you, last time I saw you, you were like just doing painting and stuff. Like that's a long time. It's gone by so quick, but it's been a long time. I want to say hi to Z-Sun Dragon, or Kevin. He's out in New Brunswick. And Julie Jean Bassett, I have to give her a shout out every time. She's helped me twice with 2 of my animals with animal communication. I took an animal communication course with her. She's also a shamanic practitioner. She's worked with Alberta Veloto and did the training with him. And I actually had a session with her, and it was powerful. I know how powerful you are. And I was just telling you before the show, I do share your podcast with quite a few people because you put out so much incredible channeled and claircognizant, if you will. I know, or you're just really clairsentient, claircognizant. You get this information, you know it, and you share it, and you have a way of demystifying it and saying it in plain English. Well, you do, so that anybody could understand it. So
I think it's a shame when people come to me and they say, oh, well, that's, I'm not that far. I don't, because I'll need more time to understand that. And I'm like, no, you just need a proper explanation. You just, we can explain this in a language that you understand. It doesn't make you stupid. It just means that sometimes some people like to use weird words and it has no relation to what you know. So you're thinking, oh, this is something new, when it's not. Right. So I often, when I do the podcast where I teach a class, I'm like, okay, for some people, this is what they call it. This is what they call it. This is what it, and then they're like, oh, I know this. I said, there you go. But now we're going to expand on this, and we're going to explain all the ramification, the history of how it came about, and how is that useful. And so I want people to feel empowered. I don't want them to feel stupid or dumb, None of
this happens in medicine, though, and your muggle job previously with, working within law enforcement, right? There's all these big terms that we use, same as being a nurse. I really I've loved to teach, and I've loved to mentor students, but also, with patients, we do a lot of teaching, but you can't use all these big words. People have no idea what you're talking about. If you talk about the coronary arteries, or you say the blood vessels to your heart, most people can relate, right? It's kind of the same thing with the spiritual field, because I'm finding a lot of ego in the field, and I'm trying not to be judgmental, and that the name of, and nothing wrong with religion if it works for people, but a lot of people are replacing religion with the word spirituality. And yeah, we're getting a lot of, I'm way up here because I can do this and you're all down here. I know you're not that way, but
I never thought, I know about ego. I mean, I also trained as a psychologist in my very early days. And
you never told me that. There's another thing I can add.
And, I know about ego, but I never thought that I would see someone having ego, a spiritual ego, and I met 2, and I was flabbergasted. I'm like, people are looking up to you, and now you want to kind of be the guru. Like, you can't do it without me. Which is, it's absolutely the opposite of what I
tell people to work with a variety of mentors, even though I do mentoring. I know you do, because I tell them you're going to get a much more well-rounded, knowledgeable approach. There's nothing wrong with sticking with one person, but then you have that one person's viewpoint and what they've perceived and what they've received from spirit. You can put a bunch of us in a room and you're going to get different messages. You're going to get some similar, not identical, but you're going to get a lot more depending on who we're connecting with and what we're sharing. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I teach 6 different types of Reiki, and I tell my students, you don't have to come back to me. You can go try someone else, and try it. But I also, through the program, the spiritual transformation program, the people are feeling better. They're making huge improvement. Their life is changing for the better, and they're like, I'm comfortable where I am. I'm comfortable with this, and I'm like, okay. So I try to use different tools, or give them homework. Go read this author. At the very least, read what this person has to say. Go read this different book. Build yourself, so not just Sonia says, you know what I mean? Go and don't be afraid to open some books. But again, they felt stupid before. Now they feel more confident. They're like, okay, I can understand this. I'm like, yeah. And if you read the book and there's something that you don't understand, just send me a quick message.
Yeah.
And then I can relate it in what you already learned. And you're like, oh, so when this person talks about this is how that's what we call it. I'm like, that's right. Right. But my sister is, God bless her, she's now 70. I don't want to age her more than she is, but she's 76 this year. And she's joined this spiritual group in Montreal because she wanted more spirituality, and I'm not there. She's like, I kind of miss our conversations. So
right.
And they're talking about things, and then she calls me. She's like, how come you never teach me about that? I said, I did. I just call it the meditation of 3 doors because it's really easy to remember. Right, there's 3 doors. This is door number 1. This is door, right? And you can do your meditation. But what use would it be for me to give you a Tibetan word that you can't pronounce and you'll never remember?
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm not dumbing it down. Like in my books that are coming out for the spiritual transformation program, I do put the Buddhist words and things like that, right? So if you want that reference, it's there. But let's say what is this? What does it entail? What is,
Well, it's easier for people to understand because, like I say to people, I don't have a big YouTube channel. I'm not there to make money off my YouTube channel, but I have some teaching videos on there. And then the rest just backs up the show. But the 2 I share the most are how to create a love shield and the grounding and gritting video. But I tell them it takes me way longer to explain it in the video because I walk you through it while you're doing it so that you don't turn off the video and go, what'd she say in step 5 again? What because you have created it along with the video. It's yours now. Exactly. And you mold and mix and create whatever you want that works for you because everybody's different, right?
I think one of my most watched YouTube video is the chakra clearing meditation. Because it's something that I walk with you through the meditation. And people are like, I said, well, how many times have you done it? Oh, like 10 times. Well, I said, do you still need the video? She's like, I don't know. She's like, it kind of takes a weight off my shoulder to just go along with you in the video. And I just do it with you. And I don't have to memorize anything. I don't have to worry. Did I make a mistake? I just follow your video and I do it once a week, which is, it's good. It works. Align your chakra, clear your chakra once a week. It's so I think that the focus is too much on making money and not understanding that part of our role is to instruct and teach. And like everybody else, I got to pay the hydro. I got to buy food in the market, But if there are things that I can help you on your journey through, podcasts or YouTube videos, and it's appreciated. I get a lot of comments. Like people say, thank you. Wow, that was enlightening. And, so it makes it worth my time to invest in doing those because not everybody's rich. And, this gives you a really good base, a really good starting point to, get going on what you're doing.
We were talking about that though before we started. I'm going to give a quick shout out to Jonathan Keyworth, JK47. We got Julie Evans here. Welcome. No, I agree with you. And especially in these times right now, money wise, and I will work with people like if they are really in need. And I've always made that very clear. Like I always say, you're in the wrong field if you think you're going to be a billionaire. I'm sorry, but you got to be doing it for the right reasons, right? Yeah. Like you're not. And the thing is, we both said the same thing almost before, was that people come to us and want us, right at the beginning, and want to start working and paying money for mentoring. And we both agreed we don't feel right. Like, I have sent people that have wanted to pay me, and I know you said the same. We got lots of free material out here. Check out the free material first and see what resonates with you. And then you might have a better idea of maybe where you want to start or what have you. But there's a lot of free stuff to start with for a beginner foundation, I believe.
And I think, and also we have to transform the mentality that they come to us because they want us to fix them, right? And that's, I think, it's the biggest transformation that needs to occur. I cannot do it for you. I had someone who offered me a lot of money, and he said, "Okay, do this for me," and I'm like, "Sorry, I can't." Because
you have to do the work.
I've done my work, and I can guide you through your work, but I can't do it for you. It does require you to spend time in introspection, in analyzing your behavior, your thoughts, and taking responsibility for what you've put out in the world, because this is what now is coming back to you. I can guide you through this process, but you have to do the process. So me sending them to watching the free material, at the very least, shows them that they have the power. They're able to learn, and they don't have to pay for every step of the way. But there comes a time where, they get to a place and they're like, okay, now I need help. Now it's okay. Yeah. Look at all the road you covered. You're prepared now. You understand why you need to change. You need, to fix things. So I think that's very, very important. It's not about just coming to my office and I'm going to give you a paper and say it's all fixed, right?
Well, I've been on a lot of podcasts lately, and people ask me that about, well, how does somebody that's maybe terminal, and I know we're going to transition into this conversation this evening. Yeah, for anybody that was here last week, and I said to you, I thought we were going to be talking about Sonia's book about narcissism. She is coming back in July, so that's when we're going to talk about it. So you guys, she's so interesting. These 2 hours are going to fly by. I am not kidding. But what was I saying now? I was saying, I've had people come to me, and then they start to feel better, and they'll say, "Oh, thank you, you did it, you did." I always tell them, "No, I did not do it. You were open. I'm just the male person." I always say, I'm helping make that connection between, maybe you're not able to or whatever, or help guide you to start doing this on your own. And I keep telling them that, like, it's not, you don't need me all the time. Like, once you start understanding, and it's the inner healing, it's exactly what you said so eloquently. But for people, I thought this was such a great topic. I always leave it up to Sonia. She's always connected to spirit. And I think this is a really helpful topic. And we were talking about end of life, you said, right? And you said it much more. Sorry?
End of life doula.
Oh, you know what? I have been saying, and I haven't given up, that when I heal my back, I am so passionate of end of life care, having worked in palliative care, that is definitely where I would be working. But let's go. I want to hear what you got to say about it.
Well, some people are like, so how does that fit into your work that you're already doing? Since I've been 16 years old, I've been a psychotrump. Now, for those of you who don't know that term, a psychotrump is someone who helps people on their dying bed to release their fears and walk into the light with them and release them to the light. There's a lot of fears out there about hell, about not going to the right place, and it's people's guilt, right? It's people's own experience there. If you think you're going to go to hell, what have you done to think you're going to end there, right? And so I've been doing that since I was 16, helping people understand what happens when you're going to die, and then helping them passing into the light as they're dying. And I'm very sorry for your loss. And so now we're expanding it a little bit more with the End of Life Doula, because the End of Life Doula helps you prepare and plan how you want this to take place. So a lot of people who do end of doula work wait until someone has a terminal diagnosis, right? So they know they have an incurable disease. They know they've been given 3, 4, 6 months to live. And
I was just thinking, not to cut you off quickly, but it popped in my head too. But coming from a nursing perspective, there's, the 5 stages. I don't call it death and dying by Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. I call it of loss, right? And there's so many stages to deal with this. So I love where you're going with this, that you don't have, because you're going to be dealing with that psychological aspect, never mind everything else. So please continue.
So the idea, the way I work now, everybody's going to have their own personal approach, but I like to meet with people before then if they want. because you can see, okay, so how do you see death, first of all? For some people, they're like, it's going to be a release, it's going to be wonderful, but that's like maybe 1 in 30? Most people are going to tell you, I'm terrified. Is there something after death? And just death alone is scary. Like, my brother, I said to my brother, you need to talk to your sons about, where your papers are, if you pass away, what's going to happen, and all of those things. And he calls me back. He's like, yeah, they answered, we don't want to talk about that. That's too weird or too gruesome. And I'm like, and there's the door for the open communication, right? You need to open that door and not be afraid of that. Mm-hmm. You need to and explain from a perspective, what could that look like and how is that going to take place? Now, even if I'm not terminally ill and I'm not planning on dying anytime soon, I've already prepared my end of life. So there's the paperwork, right? The will and the legal documents like medical directive and financial power of attorney and all that stuff. And people don't understand sometimes the difference between those documents. So, guiding them through that and saying, at least it's taken care of. But then what do you want? What is it that you would like it to look like? What is your debt signifies to you? Because it's yours. It's still yours. Even though you've died, it's still your last hurrah on earth. So what is that going to look like? Mm-hmm. So helping people finding and planning what they want. So, and of course, I've been doing this with a lot of friends and family. And my roommate, she's like, yeah, I want you to scatter my ashes and I want you to play Dust in the Wind. And I'm there. She's still very much alive, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this?
Exactly, because there's the emotional component involved. Plus, okay, so I'm going to play, I hate the term, but devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
So not everybody is going to have the opportunity, and nobody's going to say it's a gift, but believe me, it is, that if when your end is coming and you have that time to process it and plan for it. Some people, you could be stepping off the curb. You could be struck by lightning. Anything could happen. So how does it play into that? Or say, and with working in the paranormal field, we run into spirits that are taken very quickly. They don't even realize they've passed. So does this type of work help people prepare? So God forbid something like that did happen, that they know what's going on. They know that there's that light that's coming for them or whatever it may be to cross over, as I call it, going back home.
Yeah. So part of the work, not naturally, that depends on what the people who work with me want, right? It's not me saying you need to do this, right? But part of the work is to process your life, first of all. There's a project that I really think is interesting. I have someone who is going through the MAID program. So they have a date, right? And I said, well, what's unique about this person, right?
But help explain what that is, because people may not know from around the world what that is.
That's the assisted... what's the proper term? It's when someone is in a situation where they have a very chronic illness and they could lose their mental faculties, and they don't want to live as a vegetable or, vegetative state, and they're allowed through a medical organization to be assisted in their death.
Okay. Yeah.
So they have a specific date and time when this will happen.
Yeah.
So those are very charged emotionally because you have all the family around them saying, well, why? Just go on living. And he's like, but some days I don't recognize who you are. Some days I don't know how to get dressed. He's like, I'm losing all my faculties. I don't want to live like this. Right. And I completely understand.
Well, like, that's with dignity.
Yes, exactly. And that's what End of Life Doula is all about, is dignity. But there's a process that I do with the people I work with, and I help them make sense of their life. Like my aunt right now, she's still going strong, 99 years old. She's going to be 100 this year.
She's got to write a book and tell us how to get there.
And then she looked at me, she's like, that was a weird life. And I'm like, what do you mean, Auntie? What do you mean by that? She's like, it was a lot of suffering, a lot of loneliness. right? And I'm like, okay, let's try to turn this around, because that you were so much for me in my life. Do you realize how important you were in my life? Do you realize that your presence on earth made my life so much better? Do you understand that you affected and influenced a lot of people to make this world a better place? Although right now you seem to only be focused on your pain and suffering and loneliness. There was
Could
so
you
much.
see why, though? Could you see why, right? Because one of the things that people don't consider with aging, like you'll meet people, I'm sure you have, as I have, that say, I wish I could live forever. But what they don't think about is all the people that you have around you. The older you get and as you age, you do lose a lot. You lose sometimes independence, the ability to drive, sometimes your senses, but more importantly, your relationships and the people around you that you love the most. That's I could feel it, what you were saying from your aunt, but it's so beautiful that you were able to talk with her and tell her what she really meant to you and your family.
And I think that's what sometimes, this is why we need to deal with death, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get into the darkness of death, you forget the light. It's all about light. So we need to remind ourselves and those around us, what light are they? And she's not gone, right? She's still alive.
Yeah.
So, but she needs to be reminded, because she can't drive anymore, and she's not as mobile as she used to be. So that's limiting her excursions and her going out and her being sociable. So now,
and independence.
Yes. So that's really affecting her. And someone with a diagnosis of terminal illness would also go through similar, reduced mobility, reduced ability to go out and eat with friends, because they're on chemo, they can't drink, they can't eat. So it's a period where I work with the people and see, what have you contributed? And sometimes we bring in the family, the external family, in that, and say, okay, so everybody's going to pick, let's say an example. Everybody's going to pick a picture from your album, and you're going to tell the story. So we're going to create this album of stories. And, maybe I remember something and you dismissed it as not important, because it was nothing. Really, I did nothing. But for this person, it was a turning point in their life.
This almost sounds like a life review before the life review. When you cross over. Yes.
It's exactly it. It's doing the life review prior to being too late to change anything. Which is why it's good to do this now, even if you're not dying. You can do your life review now. You can examine, what have I done so far? Where's this gotten me? And which direction am I heading in? And is this time for more gratitude, more compassion, and forgiveness in my life, so I can switch roads, I can switch track and get on a different train?
Plus, to remind people, it's never too late, because you know what, people get to be around, well, I'll be 59 in August, and people start to think, well, my life's half over, or, this is the way I've always been, and it's too late to change, or it's too much work, or it's too this or too that. But what people don't realize is that, like you said, let's talk about the light, and the light maybe that you've brought to other people. I love the saying that you never realize how much you mean to other people. You have no idea. That's why I love that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, because he was reminded, he thought he was useless and was going to take his life, and he had no idea how many people's lives he had changed by what he had just being here.
And the thing is that to him, it was the right thing to do. And so he doesn't see it as an heroic act like his brother did, and he doesn't see it as big action. But every single moment of that life has changed everybody around him. He's in the end affected an entire community, for a better life, a better unity, better, So we might forget that, because we get into our own life, and then eventually we need help, or something happens, and we're like, okay, so what's the meaning of all this? So an End of Life Doula is there to assist you in finding the meaning behind it. So I think that's one of the most powerful exercise that I can do. And then we work with the individual, right? So let's say someone's a quilter. So we will take the favorite T-shirt of everybody, and we're going to make this quilt for her, because it's meaningful for her. And with her, we're doing this quilt, And then when she's sick and in the last moment, she gets the blanket that everybody's poured love into in sewing their square and putting this together. And it's a community exercise. So there's stories exchanged, there's laughter exchange, right? So you're not in the darkness of, with I'm suffering. You're pulling yourself out to be joyful again. And then this blanket then serves this person all the way to the end.
I keep thinking about this. I love what you're saying, but I keep thinking with the amount of people that I've worked with death and dying in the home, and then to even consider doing it ahead of time, that's got to take a lot of work on the part of the individual, because you'll get people that like I'm sure you've met tons of people believe there is nothing after this life, or people that have been, for example, really awful to other individuals their whole entire life. Those are the ones that are afraid, or maybe it's all about materialism and that's why they're not leaving this earthly plane, or maybe it's about revenge or whatever it is, right? So how do we should people feel this resonates, get them into the mindset of looking at this before, say, because a lot of people think it'll jinx things, right? They'll think,
you gotta get over superstition.
I'm not one of them. I'm asking these questions. I feel like I'm hearing from the audience that they're asking.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you my very first experience. I kind of got pushed into. My grandma said, "Okay, you have to come to work at the hospital." And I'm like, "Okay, what am I going to do at the hospital, right?" So I get there, and there's this lady. She was sick. She's dying. She's on the morphine drip. She can't communicate anymore. And she's like, one of those, when they breathe, it was just god awful. And her daughter's sitting by the bed and she's crying. So grandma says, "Okay, go to work." And I'm like, right. So I asked the lady, I said, is there, what's going on? What's the situation? And she's like, "Well, my mom's dying. She's on morphine, but she won't let go. And we know she's suffering, but she's just hanging in there." I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Would you allow me to talk to your mom and figure this out?" And she says she can't talk. I said, "Well, she can't use her mouth, but she's still there. I can still communicate with that part of her that is still what's animating this body, this soul." So I talked to the dying lady, and she's like, "Well, I'm not staying for, stupid reasons. I'm waiting for my daughter from New Brunswick to arrive."
Always happens, yeah.
So I was like, "Okay." So then I said, "Hang on a second." And I said, "Where's your New Brunswick sister?" She's like, "How'd you know about that?" I said, "It's beside the point." "Where is she? When is she going to be here?" She's like, "She'll be here tomorrow night." I said, "Your mother will pass away tomorrow night after your sister had the chance to say goodbye. That's why your mother's hanging on. So it's not going to drag on forever. But as soon as your sister from New Brunswick has a chance to hold her mother's hand, say goodbye, Mom, your mom's going to go into the light. It won't be an issue." So Wednesday night, I'm at home, and I saw the lady this time totally like rejuvenated, full of colors, coming in to see me and saying, "Okay, well, I'm going now. Thank you for your help." And poof, she went away.
I had many of those things happen with patients, and I had a friend he was like a father to her, and he was on a ventilator. He'd had a bad injury years ago, and he was getting ready to transition and leave. And people are of the mind that from TV, it's not their fault, but they think that when they pull the plug, which they don't, as you know, that people leave. And she had said, "Well, how long will it be before my uncle leaves or passes away?" And they said, "Oh, it should just be minutes." And here we were a week and a half later. And so, many a conversation with this person, they were open to it. They're aware of the spiritual field. And I said, that's between your uncle and, it's his choice. We have free will in death as well. And I did tell her I felt he was waiting for somebody. I wasn't in front of them. They lived in a different country, wasn't doing that kind of work. But just from a nursing perspective, I said, there's no guarantees on anybody's going to leave. Like I said, but there's either they're waiting, and it's beautiful that you're able to be there and to be able to bridge that communication for this family, because
but it brought relief to the daughter that's waiting with the mother and seeing the mother in pain, right?
Terrible to watch.
it's terrible, right? And the sounds, I mean, she was so severely sedated on morphine. I doubt she felt anything, but the sounds she was making sounded painful.
That's
right?
called the death rattle.
Yeah. So that's those are the incidents that through my life I've worked with, right? So I've had people all their lives saying they were atheists and don't believe in nothing and there's nothing but death. But then as they're nearing that death, they're like, okay, what do you think is going to happen? Because my option is very bleak. I came to this hurt. All I did was work and make money, and now I'm going to die. Was this really it? That makes no sense. What was the purpose of my being on earth? And that's when we can get and open the door to conversation. So I find that especially the ones that are diagnosed with a terminal illness, that changes their, they want to make sense of their life. They want to have purpose. And that's when they start asking questions. And that's when they also, the rest of the family's like, what do you mean? You've been an atheist all your life. And now you're asking these questions, like, what's going on? So it helps. The end of life doula doesn't work just with the person that's dying. We work with the whole family.
Yeah.
We're a network, right? And if you are in a stage of dying, then we can plan a vigil. We can plan, if you want a celebration of life. Like I've had people, they know exactly what songs they want to play and in which order and who's going to talk. And right? Everything is.
What you just made me think of? I'm writing 3 books, and the 3rd book I'm writing, I'm collecting stories, and it was Julie Jean Bassett who suggested what I'm about to say, but it's from nurses at the bedside, first responders, and she said, what about death doulas? But it's those of us that have been at the bedside, as I say, people transition from this lifetime back home, and the incredible, miraculous, amazing things that we see as this person leaves this lifetime. I think you and I need to talk after this, Sonia.
But I think that's I want to bring back the focus on, it's not just about planning a funeral. It's so much more than that. It's about giving meaning to your time here on earth. And we can do that.
Facilitating the healing, that if people are open to it, but there's been so many years, especially because families are not like what we see on TV. There's a lot of dysfunction. Sometimes there's pain, sometimes there's hurt, sometimes people call it the black sheep, if you will, whatever it is. But when people are faced with death, right? Because most of us, like as teenagers, right, we think we're bulletproof. And as we start getting older, we know it's coming. Like they say the old saying, there's nothing more guaranteed except death and taxes. But when you're faced with it and you realize that it's coming and you've got that time to process it, you, like you said, family members, what do you mean? You've been an atheist your whole life. And all of a sudden you're asking these kind of questions and your beliefs are changing and this and that and this and that. Yeah, because it's coming. Right? So what a perfect opportunity to facilitate the healing and the things we just barely touched the surface on, I'm sure.
But and that's where the life review becomes so important, because it also helps the individual take responsibility. Right? So, well, I haven't talked to my brother in 10 years. Okay, why is that? He did this. Okay. Are you ready to explore that with me? Are you ready to look into that with me? Like people, I've been divorced for 20 years now. It's my 20th year today.
Happy anniversary.
But people, my brothers especially, are like, why would you marry a guy like that? Well, I said, obviously, first of all, he wasn't like that. Or otherwise,
Believe me, I know what you're saying.
Right? And he didn't show me that side of himself. All I saw was, and he was a narcissist. So all I saw was the good love bombing, fantastic. Wow, this is amazing. Look at the guy I found. And then I'm married. But for me, marriage had a strong meaning. It meant a commitment. It meant you just because the option of divorce is open, you don't just divorce. You try to work at it, because I made a commitment to spend my whole life with this person. It was important to me. I believed in the promise that I made, right? So I said, I stayed. But I said, then I suffered more. But I can't put that on him. I have to put that on me.
You're right.
I should have left 2 years before I did, but I was afraid. Am I going to be a single mom out west alone with 3 kids? Like it was overwhelming me. So I'm the one who stayed an extra 2 years.
Yeah, but it's a fear that makes us stay in the known versus the unknown. And believe me, I know every word you are saying and why we stay much longer than we should stay until it gets to the point that you finally, especially if you're the type of person, which it sounds like you are, myself the same, that I will give you everything I have rather than give up on it, because it's the type of person I am. But in the meantime, we have to take responsibility because it's our fear that held us back, rather than realizing that we, and there's a reason why there's a cliche saying, jump in the net will appear, because it does every time, doesn't it?
It does. But while you're in fear and you're not taking action, how can you blame someone else for that?
You can't.
You have to take that responsibility. I stayed. I wasn't.
Unless he tied you up and made you a hostage.
Exactly. Right? I was going to say, you didn't tie me up in the basement. I could open the door and leave anytime I wanted, but I didn't have the courage. I didn't have the strength. I just didn't know how to do that. So I can't blame him, and I can't blame me either. And I think that's the other big important step, that you need to forgive yourself. You need to, yeah, because I mean, yeah, it would have been better, but I wasn't ready. I was terrified. I was alone. I was, so how could I be angry at my younger self for being afraid? I can't. I have to send love, and I send appreciation that eventually she did get the courage and we did get out of there, and we're here today. You know what I mean?
I have a good friend that, what they said, and she's always so eloquent. And she said, I look back with gratitude and love at that younger version of myself that held me up to the point and being in such a difficult, painful spot. But it's brought me to where I am here today. So I send her gratitude and I send her love. And
exactly
right.
Yeah. And the thing that really helped me through that forgiveness of me was, at the time, I did the best that I could with what I had and what I knew. I did the best I could. I didn't give up. So, I kept trying, and eventually I found a solution that worked for me. But at the time, every choice I made, I did try with the best of my ability, the best of my knowledge, and the best of my resources to do the best that I could.
I think that's an important message for people, especially to hear, because, many of us, it seems, in the paranormal field, I don't know why we follow true crime. I know I do. I'm not saying maybe you do, but I know there's a lot of us in this field that do. And, sometimes, especially if somebody's in an abusive relationship, one of the most difficult times is when they leave. But to be able to get out and support, have that courage eventually to leave, and like you say, the healing afterwards that needs to take place. Because I think you just said something so important, right? No, it wasn't their fault that the person stayed, but to forgive yourself. I think that's so, because that is, we are the worst to ourselves with that inner voice and the things we say. So I think
absolutely
that's powerful. Well, that's part of the end of life journey too, I'm sure, is forgiving yourself.
I spent 20 years as an RCMP, right, as a police officer. So I've seen many situations where
I know you have. I had flashes as I was saying that.
So I through those 20 years, I've encouraged and supported and tried to get victim of violences. And I say victim of violence because it's can be men or women, so I don't want to gender.
Yep, that's why I said yes, people. It's not just women. Yeah.
No. And but most of the time, in my experience, it's when the kids start to get hit or the abuse turns to the kids, that usually when the women are going, for some reason, they're thinking, well, it was okay if it was me, but you're not going to do that to my kids. And that's usually when
you have grizzly bears if you touch our children.
And I don't know, something happens inside of them. They find this strength to say, you know what, I could put up with it, but there's no way I'm putting my kids through this. And that's when they're usually able to walk out and stick to staying away, kind of thing. But the violence cycle is insidious, and at one point you love that person, right? So you don't want to.
Well, it's hard to pour on the sweetness and the charm after the outburst or the pain, and people keep thinking, and all the person wants is a peaceful life and to be loved. Is that so difficult, right? And it just never changes. And you're right, it takes something huge Like them going after your children or something that powerful. And right, yeah, you're right. The person.
And it doesn't matter if they call 10 times, they call 15 times. One of those times I kept praying because you recognize the name, right? After a while, it's, and I'm hoping this is the time. This is the time that she's going to stay away this time, right? So it's, if you're supporting someone, and you're like, wow, she keeps going back. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of broken inside this person. And you have to wait until, I don't know, the event that needs to happen wakes them up. And you have to be there every single time.
And judgment does not help, because you see it all the time about somebody that's lost their life. Like I say, two of the channels I follow, one is Grizzly True Crime, and the other one is Surviving the Survivor. And the reason why is because the focus is the people, the victims and their families. But you get people, and it's not tolerated, thank goodness, but you'll get people in there saying the most horrible things Monday morning, quarterbacking, sitting in their armchairs watching this, saying, why didn't you just leave? What was wrong with you? Why'd you keep going back? Why? They have no idea. You don't live that person's life. You don't know what's going on. You've got a few little details that you got from a newspaper, and nobody can judge somebody else's life just looking at it from the outside.
Absolutely not, because there's also a fact that, I usually try to put in the perspective. No one at 5-year-old says, when I want to grow up, I want to be a drug dealer.
I say that all the time. Nobody grows up. Nobody says when they're little, says, geez, I think I'm going to become a drug addict or an alcoholic. I always say that.
Right? That wasn't the plan. They wanted to be astronauts. They wanted to be prime ministers. They wanted to, they had dreams. And somewhere along the way, these dreams got broken. These dreams got destroyed. And then you're left with an empty shell with a lot of broken pieces. Yeah. So if at any point in life, it's good to say, you know what, I want a different life. Yeah, so the End of Life Doula is not, yes. And then, so the End of Life Doula is not just for when you're dying. It's at any point that you'd like this old self to die and you're ready to change and embark on a whole new journey. And a journey filled with hope, one filled with love, one filled with possibilities. And, there's no one that is stupid to the point where they can't learn something new. Everybody can learn to read, to write, to count. You just got to show them how. While in the same line of work that we're in, we're teaching people how to love themselves, how to take care of themselves, how to respect themselves. And if it starts for them, then they can set proper boundaries, healthy boundaries, and say, yeah, you know what, I'm not accepting that in my life anymore. That's done and over with. And that might mean you need to change your circle of friends. You might need to, affect big changes, but it starts with you. Always. That's where it starts. So these life reviews, these, resolving the resentments, of regrets, of fears, it's all part of the work that, can be done.
And I've often said to people, Julie, thanks for popping in. She had to run, so she said, great topic tonight. So thanks for popping in. But what people don't realize, right? And again, I always say we can't change anybody but ourselves, which is true. But when somebody is ready for change, and I always say that it takes a lot of courage and a lot of honesty to, like, that's why, like, say I went to Julie for a session for myself. Do I do healing? Yes. But and I'm not saying I don't have the courage, but sometimes having an objective eye from the outside and is going to give you the honest goodness truth. They're not going to BS you. They're not going to be hurtful or painful to you, but they're going to give you a different perspective. Right. And then again, if you're willing to be open and hear it, and you're working with someone like yourself, myself, Julie, all the people out here that do this type of work, you'll find somebody you resonate with, and you'll know that it's coming from a place of love and from spirit, because we're connected with spirit. Everybody's connected to spirit. I want to make that clear. And I always say that, because there's nothing drives me more crazy than when somebody says, well, I can do this and I can do that.
Yeah,
I see a lot of that.
Everybody can do this. But that's the point, right? It's like counting and reading. You just got to have someone to teach you, and then you're golden, right? I did a retreat in April, and we had an uneven number, so they wanted the student had to practice on me, and that always seems to intimidate it. I said, it's fine. I'm sure you'll do a good job. I did a good job teaching it to you. We'll be fine, right? But
I'm not here to judge you.
I said, however, the difference is that I'm going to decide to trust you. Mm-hmm. So it's a life retrieval, a piece of soul retrieval from this life. Mm-hmm. So it's much more strong in emotion than if you go into a past life. Because
tell me about it. But I gotta tell you, and I'm pretty honest with my audience. And Julie was just she was in the final stages of doing her shamanic practitioner course, and so I signed up. I didn't know if I was going to get picked or not, and I did. And I know from the body can store a lot of issues, for example, and I know that the liver stores a lot of anger. And that's where mine is stored. And after one session, it didn't happen right away, and I had to do the work. I'm still working on it, but there were some pretty awful traumatic things that happened to me as a young child that I was getting flashes of and what have you. Well, it's been about 6 months, and my liver's gone down by half. Call it the vanity of being a Leo. No, I just know it's healthier too. I know that there's still more work to be done, and I think
you have to give it a time for this transition. Yes. And you know, that's what I tell people. Like, people see this big, huge transformation. Like,
it's like just like that. I wish it was.
But I'm like, no. Now wait. Stick with it and resettle in these new vibration of, don't surcharge yourself. Just take the time to digest what just happened to you. And like you say, it
was a lot to digest, because it was like, I thought, like, am I just getting flashes or, the things I hear from other people? No, she saw it, and it was pretty darn bad. But the thing is, I don't hold any anger or resentment with the work that I've done. And I was able to see the person that did this to me from a soul perspective rather than the human perspective. And I had a choice with what I could do with that. And I know why it came up when it did. It was time to release it, and it was time to heal it and let it go.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, but the difference is, I told my student, I said, however, I trust you completely, whereas a client might not trust you so fully. So I said, I will let go. So if I'm sad, I'll be very sad. If I'm angry, I'll be very angry. I said, just be prepared that I'm not making a show, but at the same time, I won't hold it in. And you'll see what a true session with a trust established looks like, and how much of a difference that can make for the person, right? And we went back to an incident when I was never able to absorb milk, right? So I can't eat. That is goat, cow, it just, I was not able to, right? So I spent a lot of time in the hospital as a baby and all of this. But now, for some reason, my mother had it in her mind that she wanted me to eat yogurt, because yogurt's good for you. And I'm like, well, it might be good for other people, but it's not good for me. It's made with milk, and it hurts my tummy. It hurts, it hurts the whole digestive system. And I hate the texture. It's not meant to be in my mouth, right? And they hold me. Now, I didn't remember this, but through the session, I remember them holding my head and force feeding me yogurt. And when you're 4, you're living this trauma, and there's nothing you can do about it. And then there's me reliving this trauma at 52, going, I'm so angry right now. Not realizing that I had pent up all this anger inside of me, all of this betrayal. How this isn't good for me. This is going to make me sick. Why are you doing this? Why are you?
Never mind how powerless you were.
Yes.
Somebody bigger, stronger, holding you, forcing you to do this. Yes.
And people are like, oh, that's not bad. Some people get sexually molested. Some people, and I'm like, and this is where we have to release our judgment. That, there's the judgment you said earlier, where people are sitting on their couch saying, well, she should have left sooner, because they don't understand. But this is a different understanding as well. It doesn't.
This was so traumatic. This is another thing I say when I'm teaching people too. It is not fair for you to look at somebody's thing and say, well, I've been through way worse. Well, to that person, that was the worst thing they've gone through. And it still has the same effects, as just as awful as what you went through. We each have our traumas and our pains that we need to heal. And nobody has has the right to judge it in any way, shape, or form. The person that's going through it is the one that's willing to release it and heal it. And that's where it should end. No judgments.
Exactly. Which is, for the listeners, it opens the door for them, because I know some people say, well, it wasn't that bad, right? Because they themselves are comparing their experience to other people. And the work that we do together is, stop comparing to other people. How did that make you feel? How did that affect you growing up? I hated the dinner table, right? The dinner table for me was the most traumatic place that, what are you going to do to me now? And then, it was stupid things. Like, she switched from margarine to butter just to see if it was true that it affects me if I didn't know. So she'd put the butter in the margarine. So
never mind, didn't believe you. So tried to trick you.
Yeah. And then after, it's butter, so you don't have as many large quantities. But after 3 or 4 days, I started puking. I started having diarrhea. I started, and I'm like, I don't know what's wrong. Okay. And she's like, oh, I know. It's because I switched to margarine for butter. I just wanted to see if you're still allergic. I'm like, what does that to their children?
People.
So sometimes it's an accumulation of these little incidents that create the trauma. And sometimes it's a big one-time event that creates the trauma. Some people say to me, and I've seen, over the years, I've seen thousands of people. And one of them says, yeah, but I was only sexually assaulted once. I'm like, and? Well, it's not as bad as those that get it all the time. And I'm like, but you were sexually molested as a child. Yeah. Okay. Forget about everybody else, and let's just explore what that did to you and how it's affecting you and your choices. And that's the I think the most important thing is, people they'll say to you, I know this, but for some reason it's I can't get past it. That's because the trauma is in your heart, the trauma is in your soul. So the fact that this was wrong, or that, yes, it's a coping mechanism. Exactly, Jennifer. So the fact that something doesn't mean you're healed from the trauma or the emotional, cracks that's inside your soul. And I'm not making people relive things that's not the point, right? It's really examining, how did that make you feel? You don't have to repeat the whole trauma to me. You don't have to go into detail of everything that happened, but how do you feel? How did you feel at the time? And how do you feel about it now? Now that you're a full-grown adult, right? And that this is wrong, because at 5, you don't quite know what's going on, right? But now
it still triggers me and makes me angry. I was raped at 4 years old.
There you go.
By somebody very close to me. And it always incensed me to see child abuse. It still does. It's still not completely healed. I did have soul retrieval done, and that part of my soul did not want to come back. Apparently, it took quite a bit of work, and I was open to it. And I still have a lot more work to do, but that happened to me, and I heard about it my whole life. I was a slut. I was a whore. I was my whole life. And till one day, believe it or not, my brother finally stood up, didn't know what happened, and said, if you ever call her that again, you'll never see her. You'll never see her ever again. So
and that's the thing, right? The scar continues.
It does.
You're not allowed to heal, because they're keep putting these words into you and shaming you. And oh my gosh, right? It's and that's the biggest process, is recognizing that this one injury may have affected you at 4, but it pursued you your entire life until someone finally stood up and said, enough, stop, this isn't right? You can't do this. But at 5, we couldn't do that. And in a lot of cases, we kind of have to do that for ourselves. We have to enter this strength, find this power in ourselves and say,
and we have it. That's what people need to know. We have it.
You just need to tap into it. Yeah, absolutely. So, working from this angle, we're allowing the soul to heal, and it's never too late. Now that they're on the deathbed, or that you come to someone now, we're exploring these wounds, and we're allowing to recognize how these wounds affecting my everyday, my physical body, my emotional body, my mental body, my spiritual body, and going through a process of discovering what caused this and how can I turn this around. Yes,
Jennifer says that part of your growth stops at the traumatic time.
Absolutely. So either your emotional growth stops, your mental thinking pattern stops. There's something. Actually, I'm having another podcast in Montreal. I've been invited to join a group on Zoom on the 25th of May. And I'm specifically talking about the 12 level of consciousness and what they are, and how do you stump your growth? How is it that you can't get past this cycle? It's because you're so hurt from all these events,
or your body turns on yourself. For me,
absolutely,
I was never allowed to speak words of anger. I was so sick at the age of 30. I hurt my back at that age. I'm healthier now at almost 60 than I was then because my body turned on me. They couldn't find out what was going on. That's what started this whole journey. I started seeing a naturopath to figure out, why am I so ill? And I have no reason to be. I don't live an unhealthy lifestyle, and went from there. And I'm still unraveling, and that's okay. But like I say, I'm healthier now than I was when I should have been at 30 years old.
I think for a lot of us, that's how it starts. For me, I was very, very sick. I was
our bodies turn on us. Hey, I put this out all the time. I say no disrespect to the Bible, but the secret language of our body. Because I think that's what eventually happens. We don't deal with it. And it literally, a lot of our sayings have truth. It eats you up.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And the thing is that, well, I'll give you an example. Someone has a headache, right? Okay, so you have a headache. Your physical body is sending you a very, very smart message. Stop what you're doing. It's causing you a headache, right? Now, you have to stop and think, am I getting a headache because I should have glasses to look at the screen? Am I getting a headache because I'm so stressed right now? I need to take a break. And, but your headache is a message. Now, most people say it's just a headache. They open the pill bottle, they pop some pills, and they just keep going. Well, eventually, you're not hearing the nice messages, and that's when you get hit with what happened to you. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I'm a lot healthier. I mean, I'm in perfect health now. I look younger now. It's you'd look at a picture of me at 30 and you say, who's that? My own son says, who's that? I'm like, that's me. She's like, there's no way that's you. She's like ugly, she's fat, she's this, she's that. I'm like, no.
Gee, thanks.
That is me.
Your body helped grow you to bring you to here. Come on.
So it's because we're putting blinders on, and we're just pushing, continuing, and then you have no choice. I had to stop. So I was off.
Eventually you get stopped whether you want to or not. Your body will. It'll it's crazy. My liver was so bad. I didn't eat for 6 weeks. I was on end stage TPN, which is like, they put people that are dying on that. They can't eat. They took my gallbladder out because they didn't know what was wrong. I ended up finding out what the reason was, diagnosing myself, and then realizing what this all was and unraveling it.
Exactly. So, and I mean, you're faced, anybody with a burnout or someone with, that has to stop working for whatever reason, they have two choices, right? Either ignore it and then take pills and just blame the whole world for it, or start asking questions about themselves, their lives, their belief. What is it that makes it okay for me to be here? Why am I accepting this situation? And then you tell the people you don't have to. And it's the first time in their life that they hear that you don't have to put up with this.
Because we don't hear that, right? And we don't hear that there's another option besides taking a pill for a headache. I'm going to share Jennifer and Jennifer's thoughts here. And thank you, Jennifer, for being brave enough to share this. She said, I wasn't sexually assaulted, but I did have trauma related to a terrible divorce. I never learned to deal with stress. I learned to push it down. When I was in my 40s, all that trauma ended up causing fibromyalgia and Graves' disease. And that's why I like that book, because it doesn't cover every disease, but starts getting into the emotions of what could be causing this, never mind the trauma and the stress, all of this. Everything's energy, right? And if it gets stuck and we swallow it down, or we never learn how to deal with it and process it and release it. Look, because there's a message in it, and everything we go through, there's a message, and we have the choice to take that message or the lesson from it and what we're going to do with it.
Right? And I want to say to Jennifer, it does, like we said before, you can have a very serious trauma from a terrible divorce. Absolutely. And you don't have to excuse yourself that you weren't sexually assaulted. It doesn't matter. The trauma is
your trauma.
Exactly. And what I noticed over the years in my practice is often autoimmune disease are the disease of the soul. So any autoimmune disease usually relates to the soul saying, you know what, I've had enough. If that's the road we're going to go on, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm not going to let you go any further into this bullshit. Can I say bullshit? I said it twice.
It's we just can't say the F word.
Okay. Just making sure. Because that for a French person is not a swear word either. So
well, I know the French word for it.
But that's the point, right? It's not about judging the trauma, it's recognizing there's a trauma. And then
can we talk about men too? Because men are not taught. I'm hoping we're changing this eventually to be able to process and deal with emotion. And like we said, we both were very clear about this. We're not just talking about women here. We're talking about men as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I use a lot of my examples because I want people to know that I'm not just blah, blah, right? I'm speaking from experience. And whatever work I encourage people to do is because I've done for myself, and I'm in a much better place. So
that's why I'm always honest with my audience. I tell you guys everything that I'm open to. I'm not hiding it from you because I want you to realize exactly what you said, that I always say I try to walk the walk of the talk that I'm speaking of, and try to give you a practical example. If I can't use myself and say it's somebody I've worked with, I will never give you the details to tell somebody's story, but the message from it.
Exactly. And I think that for Jennifer, she's talking about learning to nurture yourself. I don't know the details of the whole story, right? But when we talk in July about the narcissistic book that's coming out, you might want to tune in because we're talking about...
I think there's an epidemic of narcissism right now.
Well,
I do.
When I was researching the book, I'm like, okay, is it me or are they everywhere? And I finally found some statistics that actually says there's a very high number of narcissistic personalities. And the problem, first of all, they'll never say anything's wrong with them. So that's why they're very hard to diagnose, right? So having the information out there helps you recognize them in your environment and avoid them. But they're also...
before you go on, I want to share this really quick. Okay. I found this video. It came up in my feed the other day. Beautiful African-American man speaking. And he said, I'm going to tell you the difference between a toxic partner and one that's truly invested. And what he said is it's either he was getting into about being toxic and talking about serving themselves versus, he said, somebody that's invested in you. And it's not just a quick one-off. They want to know about you. What are your hopes? What are your dreams? Like, are they really interested in who you are versus, but that's the problem, right? Because we get love bombed in the beginning, and then slowly it starts, we make excuses, we all do, for the red flags. And then you're invested.
Because they got us hooked now, right? We're hooked. So we're like, okay, so he's having a bad day, or you're trying to find these excuses because you can't believe that this amazing person that you met is
everything you wanted.
Now, not at all what you were expecting, and turns into a monster. So but the narcissistic book that I'm writing has this section. The first section is a lot about recognizing them, what it's like to have a parent that's a narcissistic, what it's like to have a partner that's a narcissistic, right? Because we usually tend to go from one to the next because we don't know how to deal with normal people.
The familiar.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what you know. And I remember now my business partner, my roommate, right? She's an angel. All right. And I want to show you this. Give me a sec.
Go ahead. So grabbing that, Jennifer.
For Christmas, I had this made of her.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So I commissioned the
Oh,
painting, and this is what she looks like.
I could
In
almost
the,
cry. That's such a beautiful gift, Sonia.
so
Oh,
that's who I live with. That's my roommate. Okay.
oh.
She's an angel. So at
Mhm.
first, when we were starting to be friends, I was like, what does she want? She's
She's too
so
good to be
nice. What is
true.
she? What is she gonna ask for? That's gonna be a big ask because she's really nice. So it made me very guarded into developing a relationship because I'm like, you know what? In my past life experience, every time that I meet someone like this, they you're gonna ask me for my kidney next month, right? This is where it's going. And then
I think we learn not to trust ourselves, though, too, because, like you said, with past
absolutely,
lives and everything else, instead of being able to learn to trust ourselves with the fact that I've done some of the work, I'm putting out a higher frequency type vibration, like tracks a light, like energy, and
absolutely.
but it's hard to trust, isn't it, when you've
And I was at that point in my life where I was finally attracting honest, decent, kind, loving people. But
Mhm.
now I have to trust that that's who they are. So I was very slow in letting them in my circle, if you will, right? And
I
it
hear
turns
you.
out that she is an angel, and she's not asking for anything in return. She's just this kind, loving, caring, magnificent being that I had the privilege of knowing. And then I told her, I said, well, since we're both single, how about we live in the same house, and
Hang up.
we take care of each other, and we're supporting each other. I, for the first time in my life, have a true friendship.
Aw.
Yeah,
You
and
know
I
what I say though, and I'm sure you see this too, because I have a very small, very, very, very small inner circle. I have a lot of acquaintances, but
Mhm.
and there would be probably a lot more people that would like to be let in, but I think we become more adept as we work on the healing to sort of see some of the red flags. But the other reason is the people that I have close to me, I know that they're going to tell me what I need to hear, maybe even if I might not like it. But when I step back and try to be objective, and it doesn't happen very often, but what I'm saying is I know that if they had to tell me something like that, it's coming from a place of love and it's something that I may need to hear. Mhm.
yeah, because I told her, I said, I've never had this a true friendship. It was always I was always trying to avoid conflicts. I was a yes woman. I
Me
was
too.
I don't want conflict. I want you to love me. I want to belong, right? But
I
it
don't
never
want
really,
conflict. I don't want anger.
right? But now, after going through the process myself, I recognize who I am. No one's going to tell me that I'm less than who I am, right? I know who I am. I know my abilities. I know my talents. I know my strength. And I'm strong in that belief, which attracted people who are the same, who are strong in who they are and their personalities with a strong foundation. And that's who I partner with. That's who I work with.
Yeah, but
So
don't you find, okay, just getting down to being very honest here, don't you find that there's a lot of people out there that really don't get what a good friend is?
I don't think people know what friendship is.
They don't know because we've worked with so many people, and maybe I know we work with the people we're meant to, who will put up with a lot of crap with a lot of people. And then they can't understand why they keep getting treated like a doormat. And when you explain to them that friendship is a two-way street, like, you know what, they'd be there if you needed them, and they the same, but you don't take advantage. And it's a give and take, but it's about love and positivity. Or like I said, to surround yourself with the people that are never going to be critical of you, but if there's something that you really need to hear, it's coming from a loving space and
Exactly.
technique.
That it's said with love, right?
Mhm. It's
Um,
never, like it's never said horribly. It's said with the kindest of words. And I'm only
my editor for one of my books, she's like, "I don't want you to get upset." I'm like, "Okay." I
okay.
said,
Not a good way to start.
"All right." And then she pointed out to a paragraph in my book. She's like, "I'm reading this and it's not very clear." And I'm like, "And why would I get upset about that?"
Yeah, that's usually what I say. Why would I get upset about
And
that?
she's like, "Well, I don't want you to take this the wrong way." Well, I said, if you had just told me, hey, you stupid wench, how come you wrote this way? Don't you know any better?
It's so stupid to write it this way. Yeah, then you'd get upset, but she said it very
But I said that you, an editor, come to me and say, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to say with this paragraph. Maybe there's a different way that we could word this to make it clear to your public. Then I'm like, I have no problem with that. Mm-hmm. So I said, what I'm trying to say is this. And she's like, oh, then may I suggest? I said, yes, please. Right. And then I said, you shouldn't be if it's approached properly. But that means that that's someone who's tried to help someone else before and got, pooped on. Mm-hmm. I said, no, I said, it all depends how you approach me. If you approach me politely, from a professional standpoint, and you tell me what could be done, then I'll listen. You're the professional editor. I would be stupid not to listen to what you have to say.
But a lot of people too, right? Or they'll wonder, like I've worked with people too that'll say, I feel like I've been crapped on my whole life. Like, why do this keep happening to me? And you can't just come out and say, well, that takes two, and let's step back and look. It takes time to work with something like that to be said lovingly, and the person to be able to digest it and open up to it and really hear it and build that trust, right?
Absolutely. And that's why I usually encourage people with this life review. If you come to me and you tell me it's been happening all my life, okay, well, now is a good time to make it stop. But what causes this? Why? Because I was a yes woman. I had no boundaries. So they took advantage of me, yes, but at the same time, I was supposed to learn to set boundaries and to stand up for myself. Mm-hmm. There's reciprocity in all interactions. Some of them are there to show us, everybody around me is very angry, but you're filled with anger. So you're attracting this anger. So there's this attraction. And then sometimes we're meeting certain situations because we're supposed to learn and grow from them. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to, say enough is enough. And I won't do this anymore, and change the way we think or we act. Mm-hmm. I personally think that our school program needs to, instead of focusing on learning and counting right away, I think we should learn to be, polite and what is friendship and how to build a proper relationship, how to establish communication. I think that, the first 2 years, that's what it should be about: respect and responsibility. And then you build a strong foundation for individuals that are grow up in society, knowing what friendship, respect, honesty looks like, and why is it expected of them to perform this way, instead of needing to lie and hide and scheme and
Jennifer just said how to be a decent human being, and sort of Kathy Henley Little said yes, and that's just it. I've been saying that. And I think we're at a place, hopefully in our lifetime, that we are going to start seeing some changes, because we need some big shifts around the world. I know we got to be careful on YouTube with what we say, but I think over the last few years, I'll put it at that without saying any of the words, that people have had their eyes opened. Because I don't know about you, but I'm meeting more and more people that are either at a crossroads or they are asking these questions. Why am I here? Why am I here? And I always tell people, I'm not going to tell you what your life purpose is, but I'll be happy to walk with you and help you discover it.
Exactly. And on that, I think we see eye to eye. We're not there to tell you anything. We're there to guide you through the process so that you can, it's much more powerful anyway, when you get your own haha moments rather than being told by someone, right? I think it has more power and more lasting of an effect if you get to that point and you say, oh, I think this is it. Okay, let's give it a try.
If it's not, it's okay. Then let's go a little further. Let's look at something else. And
exactly.
I'll get people to, like the same as I get people that'll say, I always ask somebody maybe, why are you coming for a session or what? Because I do most of my stuff long distance, right? And, when people have said, well, I just went through a terrible breakup and I want to know, is my ex cheating on me, or is with the woman they were or I'll just use an example. It was my ex is now with the woman they were cheating on me with, and I want to know why, and I want to know this, and I'll tell them, save your money. Because, could we go into somebody else's energy? Yes. Will we? Or I know I won't. I know you won't. I'll say break into somebody's front door. But I can help you should you choose to look at what was the lessons you learned from this? What did you take from this? What did you learn from this? How can you heal to move on from this, right? Those are
Exactly. Exactly. I 100% agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is the key. It's not about anybody else. You got to let that go. It's about you. So I
And
have
big
people.
lesson, you can't change anybody else as much as you want it for them or you think you do. You cannot. The only thing you can change is you or how you interact or react or even choose to maybe it's time to cut ties.
Yeah, and I usually tell people because I get couples, right? And
Oh,
then
that's an interesting one.
yeah. So I start a meeting with whatever you say to me will not be repeated to your spouse, and your spouse cannot ask question about your session. But the important thing is that the main complaint that I hear is like, well, I'm opening to all this, and they don't want to participate, right? And that's their right, that's their choice. But you doing the work for yourself, you changing, you growing, you might start shining this light in their life, and they're gonna say, you know what, I'm a little curious about this. Maybe can I come with you to this meditation, or and allowing them to cross the door threshold when they're ready to cross, right?
And maybe they might not be okay with that, but trying to force someone and arguing with people that it doesn't matter who it is. It could be your child, it could be a parent, it could be your spouse, it could be anybody. You can't force somebody to do something. I like what you said though, but by shining your own light would take the pressure off, shine your own light, and the person very much could be with living with you full time thinking, hey, I've seen a really great change here. I want to know more about this, right?
Yeah, I've actually seen the 3 cases. They left each other. They went separate direction. They continue to live, and that he goes boating and she goes to fairs and things, and they manage to stay together but have different interests. And I have those who have decided to join in, and because they see the wonderful changes in their spouse, and they're like, you know what, I think this is working for you. Can I come, right? And so they might be 2 years behind, 5 years behind, but eventually they join in, and they're interested and they're curious, and they're, I feel, more motivated even than the other person originally was, because they want to get there now. They
You know what the beauty though in what you said though, right? You had some couples that he goes boating and she does her thing with the healing work, and what it was the fact that both of them are starting to find joy, right? And that's got to make it a more peaceful place to be living together, rather than somebody being constantly angry because you won't do what I want you to do, but I know it's good for you and you need to do it. Take the pressure off. Boating maybe brings that person a lot of joy. This brings you a lot of joy, and it allowed you to live harmoniously together. And I mean, I'm not talking about TV harmonious, but you know what I mean. Rather than breaking up, you're able
and
to.
what I usually say to I said to this person is like, he's connecting with nature, right? So his way to connect to source, creator, God, is when he's on that boat alone in the lake. He's not really fishing. That's the excuse. It's to spend time on a boat on the lake, and seeing the ducks and hearing the and while he's in that space, his worries are maybe he'll receive inspiration in his own way. So like everybody's got his own way of connecting. We don't have to be all cookie cutters and absolutely do the same thing the same way, right? This is all about finding your own path.
As Jennifer just said, everyone's on their own journey, and they are, and there's different ways to get there.
Exactly. Right? And we have to be open enough to allow each person in our environment and community, to find that way that works for them. Not impose that, well, this is how I did it. That's great. I'm so happy you found your way. But everybody comes with a different wound. Everybody comes with different fears. Everybody comes from a different background experience, right? So we have to allow for that individuality to show through in your spiritual path, or the way you're going to walk you through your life.
I just love the way you put this out here, because we do hear, like I haven't worked with couples, but I'll get one partner coming in quite unhappy, or others who are desperately wanting to meet somebody and keep meeting jerk face after jerk face after jerk face, and they can't understand why. And, over time, these are some of my regular clients. And I said, listen, look at this as a gift. This is a gift to yourself with the fact that you have the time to do whatever you've ever thought about, what you've wanted to do. You're working on yourself, you're healing some of these issues, so that when you do meet that person, think about the energy shift that you're going to be making and whom you're going to attract. Or like you said with the roommate, for yourself, and it was hard to believe, right? Like all of a sudden it's like, oh, this person really is who they're showing me they are.
Yeah, and now we've been friends now for 12 years. So, and we've been living in the same house for 4 or 5 years now. So she is who she always was. Yeah, there was no pretense. She is that wonderful human being. And I'm so, so lucky and grateful to have that kind of person in my life.
My roommate, I met her when I was 16, and everybody told us, don't ever live together. You're going to ruin a friendship, whatever. It was perfect. We lived with each other right till we got married. 1 week, she felt like cleaning. She'd do the cleaning. She wasn't it was her words, not mine, not as good. She's an amazing cook now, but back then she wasn't a great cook. But she loved doing the dishes. So I would do the cooking. She'd do the dishes. Like, there was never fights. There was never arguments. It just worked. But there was mutual respect and understanding and give and take. And it really was a great relationship. And when you find someone that you can live harmoniously with.
It actually, well, because all I had to go on was this terrible marriage I had, right? Mm-hmm. And so it showed me that when you're with a normal person, right, a loving, caring person, you can, if something arises, you don't have to raise your voice, you don't have to be angry, you don't have to throw shit around. You can just say, hey. So one of the practice that we have here is usually before we go to bed, I'm going to ask, so what's on the agenda for you tomorrow? Mm-hmm. Right? So I know, what is she busy with, and do you need help with that? Yep. Or I'll say, okay, well, I'm appearing on the Angel Rock Network, so I'm going to be busy with that. So well, I think that what is normal for me is to be happy. I think that there's no box that you fit in, but to me, to be able to communicate with the person I'm with, that we're able to share the same space, we're able to share the responsibility, like you're saying, there's the cooking, there's the, but I'm more of the outdoorsy person. So when I have to cut a few trees down, that's my job. I'm driving a tractor. Right. But she loves to cook. And I'm like, okay, well, have at her.
That's how I am too. Yeah, have at it if you want.
So, but if she's like, I don't feel like cooking tonight, I'm like, it's okay. Is there leftovers in the fridge? And she's like, oh yeah, well, so then let's just do leftovers. Or if she, if there's nothing, and I said, okay, well, either I'll take her out and I'll just buy some or I'll cook, but whatever, right? It's not, there's no fighting, there's no arguing, it's just easy. It's simple. So if you don't like the word normal, go for easy and simple.
I think she's facetious, Kathy. What is normal?
What makes you feel good about yourself, right? So to have someone who believes in you, someone who supports your ideas and your next endeavor, right? That's what and it's a platonic relationship, but that's the way any relationship should be. It should be about boosting each other, about helping each other, supporting each other, believing in each other. Not someone who says, well, that's a dumb idea. Okay, well, you haven't heard anything about this. You don't know my plan. And okay, well, if you're going to take it this way, I'll just take it somewhere else. Right? But to be...
she said Abby normal.
So I think that when it comes to your life, you should be happy. You're not supposed to be miserable. You're not supposed to be...
And you can't look outside. This is another thing I find I end up working with people a lot too. They're looking for, if I lose that 30 pounds, I'll be happy. If I meet this perfect partner, I'm going to be happy. They're going to make me happy. Nobody can make you happy but yourself.
No, and I think, weight is an iffy issue. I mean, for some people, they're very overweight and it's affecting their health. So if they need to lose weight, it should be for their health, not to conform to a society's picture image, that's posted out there. But I'm 52, and I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, you know what? I've had 3 kids and I'm 52 years old and this is how I look. If you don't like it, you're not worthy of me. And that's
I eat whatever I want. I don't eat very often. I don't have much of an appetite. But the thing is, I gave that up a long time ago, right? Like we went through that. I was anorexic when I was 17 to 19, not 90 pounds. I'll never be that. I'm 5'9", but I was really real thin.
Yeah.
And I just realized, you know what? We're going to be who we're going to be. I'm not in bad health. I was in bad health. I wasn't overweight at 30, but there were other reasons for that. But you're right. You just start learning to accept yourself. And a lot of times what I don't think people realize, especially
if I just look at me and my body, I have a strong, healthy body.
Well, the other thing I was going to say, though, people a lot of times that have had a lot of trauma that don't deal with it, sometimes they pack themselves in those layers. Absolutely. Of body will insulate them too. So when you start working on the healing work or doing the life review or, some of the things we've talked about, sometimes that weight just happens to start to fall off when you start to heal and start to feel safe and trust yourself. And
it's kind of a reverse process, right? You actually have to start loving yourself in order to then transform your body into an image of a loved body. There's something called the body elemental. Did you ever discuss this in any of your?
I don't think I've heard of it before, but go ahead. I don't know if we're talking the same language, but go ahead.
So your body elemental is your etheric body that is just really, really close to your skin. And it's your if I would say another term for it, it would be your guardian angel, which is recording it's recording all your thoughts, all your feelings, all your actions, and keeps track of where you're going, with your soul, right? But it's living in the same space as you in the third dimension as well. And you're the architect, and the poor elemental is your contractor. And you keep bashing this contractor saying, look at the body you gave me, and my boobs are saggy, my blah, 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 I'm not happy with this, my nose is too big. And yet your poor contractor says, you're the architect. That's the plan you're giving me. The more you hate yourself, the more pounds I have to add. That's how it works. So I tell people, if you've been hating your body for a long time, maybe start rebuilding that relationship with this contractor of yours that's listening. It's just listening, and then you say, I love my body. It's just not there I can work with that. If you love your body, then that's what it should look
like. And
if
you can't love your whole body, start with something, right?
Absolutely.
We all have something we love about ourselves. Maybe it's the color of your eyes, or
for some people it's their eyes, other people it's their hair, other people, they got a great butt, and it's okay. Well, you got something. Now try to transform it. Like the way I dealt with all the stretch marks and everything is I just got my entire self tattooed, and I'm looking at the tattoo. I'm like, cool.
You've got some great tattoos. I've seen some of them, depending what you're wearing. You've got some great tattoos.
So, and that's for me. I'm not saying it's the solution for everyone, but that for me is what allowed me to get over the every time I looked at my belly. And I'm looking at myself.
I've talked before. Okay, so I don't know if you ever told the story quickly on this goes by way too quick with you, I swear. So I had a friend that was this beautiful, younger, blonde, size 0 and whatever. And I've never been thin, but I'm not overweight. But anyways, we went out one night, and I had all these people coming to talk to me, and I wasn't on my spiritual journey at this time, didn't know all this stuff about energy, but she was standing there, and then finally she says, I don't get it. And I said, what? And she said, well, I don't mean to be mean. She said, but I'm younger than you. I'm thinner than you. I'm blonde, and basically telling me how amazing she is. And I understand why nobody's coming to talk to me, and they're like eating you up with a spoon. Those were her words. And I said, I'm going to be really blunt with you, probably because I had a couple drinks, but I said, you were standing there like an ice princess. And I didn't know any of this energy stuff. And I said, you are sending off exactly how you feel out there. And it feels awful. And I didn't know all this stuff at that time, but it was true. In her mind, she couldn't understand because it's all about, look, same thing I say to people, you know, well, I actually joke and laugh. I say, can you imagine nursing homes like 20, 30 years from now? Like, I want to hear more Metallica or something. Right? But the whole thing is we all age. And the thing is, we're not going to look like when we look like when we were 20 or what have you. So I think it's so important for all of us to focus on the inside, because I think that's what makes you beautiful and the energy you put out there. I've seen
and if you
500 pounds that there's people falling at their feet. It doesn't matter so much about what you project to the world.
But
it's
if you
put out there.
If you start shining from the inside, it's going to affect the outside.
Absolutely.
They're closely related, right? They go hand in hand.
You know what? I can't wait to come back in July, because I want to give you a few minutes to tell people. Now, are you doing still? I didn't even have a chance to bring this up because we got about 3-4 minutes. You were doing retreats also out like around the world. Weren't you going to Nepal?
Yes. Yeah, I got a retreat in June here in Drumheller, Alberta, in July and August. But in November, I'm taking a group to Peru for 3 weeks, and there we're having shamanic experiences.
I was way off. I said Nepal. I'm sorry. You've been all over the world with these groups, so
I do, but this time is Peru. So we still have a few spots if anybody would be interested in joining us. I have someone joining us in Peru from Portugal. So you don't have to be from Canada to join. We just, as long as you arrive on the right day, at the same time as everybody else at the airport, we pick you up at the airport, and then we're going to the jungle. We're going to the desert for a healing experience. It's a very spiritually, detail oriented kind of tour, if you will. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. And I'll be in Quebec May 16 to 29 and the whole month of October. So,
well, people are already saying great show and great guest. So where can they find out more information? We didn't even touch on your books tonight. I know we're going to touch more on it when you come back in July, but
we'll do the books in July. I think it's nice to, have this synergy and make this a conversation rather than being so stiff.
It's always a conversation on my show. Honestly, before every show when I go on, I wasn't even worried about you. I told you that because I know a lot of you haven't met her before, but she has been on my show. It's been a while, but she's been on my show a couple of times. And every time she comes on, people love you and want you to come back. That's why when she said she was going to come back in July, I said yes. So she's already booked. She's typed in some addresses for you here where to find her, but her website is. Go ahead.
Yeah, just if you go to the website, on the website, you just click the media tab, and you can listen on Spotify, Google something, Apple. I got like 5 different areas where you can listen to the podcast, and I also have a lot of talks on YouTube videos as well, and you can find all that on the website. So you can choose which media works best for you, and then you can look at the list of topics that I've covered. And pick what interests you.
You would not believe it. I'm telling you, I was not BSing Sonia, and there'll be people that'll hear this on the replay. I have shared Sonia's podcast with people because I am telling you guys, the amount of information that comes through in plain language you can understand, and I'm talking every topic you could possibly think of, from Saint Germain to angels to the history, it's incredible. You will not be disappointed when you check out her podcast, believe me.
So and I always answer the comments. So with someone after the fact post the comments, I will always take the time to reply to those comments as well. So yeah. And thank you.
So I read it out because for people listening. So Jennifer says, fabulous energy, ladies. It feels like old friends hanging out. Well, you got to come back. I think it's July the 8th. Sonia's coming back.
Yes, give me a second. I'll double check.
At the same time.
Yes, July the 8th.
Yeah, July the 8th, because she's a busy lady, and I'm booking into September, I think. So when she said I don't even know, did you ask? I think you asked me, you had a new book coming soon. And so I said, then book both, take them both. Yeah, everybody's loving you. Everybody's saying great guests. And I know there'll be a lot of people here on the replay. So I'm so grateful you came on tonight. And
well, I think we must have been very, very, very good friends in the past life.
Oh, I think so.
Right? Because we were meant to meet in this lifetime. And the beauty of, internet and things like that, there's no boundaries anymore on how to meet those people that you've met before and you meet again. I mean, our journey is so similar. Our experiences is
I know.
we were meant to be friends.
I know. The minute we met, though, we met through Rain, and I haven't talked to Rain in forever. Rain's been on here before too. We'll have her. I think she's got something new going on, so I'm sure we'll be ending up connecting, having her on too again. But you guys mark the date, July the 8th. She will be back, Sonia. And I want to thank you all for being here as always, and for the great comments and things that you guys always suggest. So if you ever want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me on any social media platform. But the easiest way is on Facebook Messenger. But I also have a business page on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Angel Rock. Don't forget to join our group Thursday night. We have that group, the thing at the foot of the bed with Lorelei Puffin and David Hansel. When we get to 200 people, David and I are going to start going live in there doing free 1-question readings and teaching and what have you. So I will be back on Thursday, obviously, with David from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here, right on UPRN. Also, I have 2 groups on Facebook, Paranormal University for all things paranormal, Angel Rocker Tribe for all things spiritual, but you can find me on any social media platform. Were you going to say something, Sonia?
Well, I think you have to write yourself a blurb that you can remember everything. So much. But people, if they choose to, that's why I put the website on there, because from the website, they can find my YouTube channel, they can find the Facebook, they can find the podcast, they can find all the links. I think that for something like this, it's the easiest thing, right? So just go to the website.
They never read it. They never read it. They get used to what I do. I guarantee you, I get people every time. If it's not out, that's why I put the banner out when I do. If it's not out there, that people are, having a show. Where do I watch a show? Where they know where to watch a show, but I still get messages. So. Anyways, we love you all here. We'll see you on Thursday night. I will be back next Monday. I forgot to check who's coming on, but it's going to be another great guest. All right. So we'll see you on Thursday.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I'll see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.